All right, okay, good evening, everyone. Okay, welcome to a new week. So we'll get started for the session over here as usual. Okay, quick disclaimer, everything that we'll be covering in today's session is solely based on educational purposes, right? And they do not directly translate to any form of trade signals, yeah? So with that, let's start off with the overview of the week, as well as a summarized version of like what happened last week, okay? Now, last week, generally, there's not much of a kind of like surprise element in the market. We do have major central banks rate policy decision, but more or less, all of them, I would say, came in very much in line with the expectation. Didn't have much of a huge movement that I'm observing, right? Other than the SMB, but for me personally, I don't really focus a lot on the Swiss franc itself. Okay. So last week, quick summary, Aussie side, did not really shift in terms of interest rate. There isn't much of a surprise element, not much of a volatility as well. Okay, UK CPI, last week I was tracking on that, looking at opportunity potentially to get a news trade as a catalyst to jump into a breakout trade. But that didn't really happen as well, right? We did have a in-line expectation with what the forecast is. The market didn't really react off the news immediately. Okay, so nothing much there. SMB did cut rate. Okay, but for me personally, I did not really kind of like keep track of the franc. Not a particular pair or currency that I'm actually actively trading. Okay, and then of course we have the Bank of England coming in, very much in line as well, no surprises. And then we have like a couple of PMIs and things like that. Okay, we are continue. I mean, overall, we're still continuing to see the price in most of the major pairs are basically still in a range bound environment. Coming down and then going back up, coming back down and going back up. Personal take here is you would rather be a bit patient and maybe want to see some kind of an obvious break out of this range before really committing to the trade itself in terms of like swing trades, right? When we're talking about in terms of like the major pairs over here, okay? So this week, definitely tomorrow's CPI is very tradable, okay, on the Canadian side. So that's something I'll be keeping track of as well. Doing a news trade on this particular event. Hopefully we kind of get a surprise element, nice little trade, short-term volatility, we'll be able to catch some decent profits of it. Okay. Other than this, we do have the core PC price index coming in from the US. And then of course we have the Aussie CPI for the week as well. Asian sessions like Aussie itself, CPI is important. But again, how volatile it is, it's definitely not as volatile compared to like maybe the dollar related or Canadian related, simply because of the Asian session itself. Okay. But I think the Aussie CPI is definitely something that, it's potentially tradable as well, which is something I'll also likely keep watch 9 a.m. right on Wednesday itself. But more importantly, it's definitely tomorrow's Canadian CPI, right? Personal experience over here is that the Canadian data seems to be very, very tradable, very easy as well. The breakouts are often very clean. Okay. CPI core, I mean core PC, sorry, core PC price index here is a kind of like a mix. From my observation, it's not, you don't really get like all the time huge volatility of this data itself. But when there's a major surprise element, definitely the volatility can really kick in on this data. So that's generally what we have this week. Not a lot of like very, very significant and important data. Okay, but basically we're going towards the end of the month already anyway, right? And then next week, is where we get our usual first Friday NFP and things like that. Okay. So that's an overview in terms of some events to note. Okay, now if you look at the charts over here, okay, I think you can, clearly see, what I mean by the market is essentially in a range, right? Coming down, going up. You can see over here, right? The market went up, came down, went up, came down, went up, and then right now it's coming down. So very, very difficult to capitalize on this kind of movement in a swing style, right? I mean, if you are more of an intraday, you may be catching, as the market are developing. But as a swing trade, it's just difficult. Okay, and you can see since I would say like mid-April until now, the market is basically stuck in this range, right? I can even pull it further back, okay, and say that up to this point here, you can see even like late March, right? We haven't been really moving out of that range, right? Market came down, went out, came down, went out, and basically we're stuck in this huge range. Okay, now certain strategies tends to perform, right? The EAs that I'm running, it's performing great. Okay, because the market is in a range environment and EAs often perform best during this kind of environment. Whereas more of a swing trade, right? We want the trend. Okay, we want market to move in a particular direction nicely. Then during this kind of environment, we don't get a lot of trade ideas. Okay. So that's something you need to be aware of as well. Okay. And I always emphasize, it's very, very important to kind of have a diversified strategy or even approach so that when one particular style is not like ideally performing in the market because of its environment, okay, you won't be like entirely quote unquote dried up, right? Because if you don't have swing trades, it's fine to me because basically what I'm looking at is my EAs are performing fantastically, right? So kind of balance things off. Okay, and of course, when the market trends very nicely, the EA will be going into drawdown. Okay, that's how they are working right now. Okay, so let's jump into some of this major pairs, just to very quickly, just share with you the top process I have right now, right? Quite a bit of these majors here, I'm basically waiting for some kind of clean move, okay? So dollar index, just to backtrack a little bit, right? I'm really not having a clear directional bias on the dollar index, right? Essentially, I will want to wait for clearer pattern structure. What I'm anticipating here, of course, if the market does something like that, then we have a crawl. Okay, but that would require more time for the price to build up, right? Euro dollar, we did have a little bit of a double bottom structure over here. Okay, now of course this double bottom will only be confirmed kind of if price breaks that neckline with momentum, right? Okay, so of course, if we can get a momentum impulsive break and then a pullback here correctively, that will open up an opportunity for us to look for this trade all the way back, to a previous top of the channel. Okay, and of course that would then build into the possibility of this being a three wave. Okay, a three wave big structure like this. Okay, so that's one potential trade idea or opportunity that we can keep an eye on. But of course, the prerequisite here is for price to actually break out impulsively first, right? To confirm kind of like, okay, we have kind of complete the bottom. Okay, so that's the take on the euro. Pound dollar over here. Okay, pound dollar likely we're gonna see some more downside, right? So I think overall, there's some bearish opportunity that we can keep track of for GBP USD. Okay. Obviously, given that if you can get a corrective pullback, okay, then we can see it in the perspective of this is one move, this is a corrective pullback, okay, and then around at 15,618 will give us an opportunity to trade it to the downside to kind of complete a three-wave pullback after a move of to the upside from there. Okay. So short term, GBP USD is still presenting the opportunity to potentially look for a sell. Okay, if I can't extend this 15618, that will open up around the area of 1.2740 to 1.2770. Okay, so wait for a corrective pullback that will give you a decent swing trade idea. With a target here at 2580. Okay, so that's on GBP USD. Okay, Aussie dollar, basically I'm gonna be neutral. Again, you can see why. Really corrective structure, V shape one after another, right? So we're basically in this phase right now, right? And all you have to do is just be patient, ride it out of this, right? Wait for the market to cleanly break out of the range structure, and then we'll get some decent opportunities moving forward. Okay. But for now, likely we're going to continue to expect, price to just bounce up and down. So Aussie dollar is definitely not something that is going to be, very interesting. Dollar Canadian, coming down. Okay, so again, over here, I'm just going to be slightly patient. But of course, it opens up the possibility. Again, we can see, right? This move is not very correct. It's not very impulsive. It's very, very corrective. Okay, so this current development where the price coming back all the way down and retest the bottom of the channel is very, very possible. Okay, and of course, that would then build into a three-wave structure that looks something like this, right? Okay. The only thing here is, of course, we don't have like very obvious sell opportunities or sell setups at the moment. Okay. This move again, you can see how corrective it is as well. Okay. Perhaps maybe tomorrow's CPI from Canadian would, give us some clue whether we get an impulsive move back up, okay, or we just basically get an impulsive down. Either way, I think that's where we'll get a bit more indication of how price will want to develop. Okay. I wouldn't sell into a pattern like that. Okay. A sell setup to me that is going to be higher probability would be always wait for that corrective pullback. Okay. Then of course that sell setup would have a high chance of happening. So again, right now with what we have, okay, in terms of like this here, that's really nothing. Okay, that's really nothing there. Okay. Next up is the dollar yen. Okay, so the yen pairs continue to move higher, right? So yen continue weakens. I think dollar yen here has definitely a lot of more upside given the current structure development. Okay, I'm looking at this as a simple channel structure with 1, 2, 3. Okay, forming the W, pullback X, and this as a 1, 2, 3, right? To complete the Y wave. So what I'm looking here is that any form of a pullback towards near the bottom of the channel, right, will be seen as a potential buy trade, right, for one more move, push back to retest the top of the channel to complete a 7-wave cycle. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then that would likely see a bigger pushback to the downside. So dollar yen, okay, in fact, most of the yen they're kind of like bullish bias, right? But the dollar yen here is much cleaner. Just very, very quickly jump into the other yen pairs. You can see this move up is just not as impulsive, not as clean as the dollar yen. Same thing here in Aussie, right? Aussie did break of this previous high. But of course you can see the break is really struggling. So it's not really high conviction. Okay. So the two other yen pairs I'm having here, like pound yen and odd yen, basically I'm not very confident in. I would just suggest stay out of it. Dollar yen is something that if you are keen, you can look out for a pullback or a buy. Okay. Gold had a pretty nice reaction of that key area. Okay, so kind of completed this three-wave structure here as well. Nice impulsive push. Okay, in the short term, in the near term, if we can get some kind of a corrective pullback, that obviously we'll be expecting one more push, right? Okay, and then that will kind of complete this cycle here. Okay, and then of course internally this is a three-wave. So the area of target is right now, somewhere in the zone. Around 2260, right? That will be the target for this short-term sell. And I would say, as long as if I can't adjust this a little bit, okay, as long as the price remains below this high, you can definitely look for any sort of a pullback and then potential sell trade opportunity. All right. So gold here is pretty clean at the moment. In terms of like setups and opportunity within the week. Okay. Next up is crude oil. So crude oil had a pretty impulsive move. Right now, we're basically waiting for the pullback. Okay, if you can get a pullback towards this key areas like Fibonacci, then that will be presenting a pretty decent buy trade opportunity. Okay. S&P, okay, potentially completed a 5-wave cycle over here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm kind of expecting some decent pullback. Okay. Overall, we are bullish. Okay. But of course, if you're looking more of a short-term perspective, trading the pullback here, looking for the sell, very possible. Okay. But if you ask me, from a longer term perspective, you would want to be more of the buy side than the sell side. Okay, so short term may be pulling back, right? So if you're more of an intraday, shorter term trader, you can consider trading the pullback, selling it. If you're more of like swing or even potentially into investing, then the take is obviously wait for the pullback to complete and then look for opportunities to get in on the upside. Okay. GBP AUD over here. I'll be interested in the upside. Okay, I'm looking at it from an angle where this is a 5 wave and this is basically a pullback. Pullback pretty impulsive, so I'm actually a bit cautious. That's why you can see over here, I would ideally want to see an impulsive push up first, corrective pullback, and then of course that will give me an opportunity to take this to the upside. Also having in mind that we can essentially just be seeing some kind of a channel structure development, right? Some kind of ABC. But nonetheless, right, if you can get an impulsive move a little bit to the upside and then corrective pullback, I think the buy trade can still be pretty attractive to the upside. Okay, so a lot of patient game right now, right, based on the market condition. EuroCAD, bearish over here. Okay, again, it's not one of the cleanest setup, but overall, I think we are looking at market coming back down to the zone. Okay, so again, EuroCAD here is like going to daily, right? We're looking at possibly even coming down lower, right? You can see the daily channel, right? 1, 2, 3, possibly coming down even lower. But of course, this is a pretty significant area that the market may have some kind of reaction, right? So it can be like coming down, push back, and then coming down, right? So from that understanding, right? That's where if we go down back, right, to the forward time frame, as we approach, okay, this low area, okay, that zone that I've highlighted just now, you probably want to be expecting then the pullback to take place, right? So yeah, the short-term overall bias right now is definitely bearish. Okay, and I think if the market can really respect the 50 and 618 here, then we can obviously expect one more drop. Okay, so that's on Euro Canadian. BTC did had a kind of a bit of a significant drop today. Okay, so that kind of break through the 50 and 618, right? So I think this one here probably need to update a little bit. Okay, because initially I was expecting and I was in more of like waiting and see if you can get a bounce, right? So you can see here, we're basically waiting for 15, so if you can get a bounce, then likely this is completed. We didn't really get a bounce, right? In fact, we get a break to the downside. So if I can't extend this, right, what is my gonna be, alternative view on this is again, we may end up in a huge consolidation phase. Okay, we may end up something like that. Yeah. Okay. So if we're gonna be kind of expecting a huge consolidation phase like that, then there might be a little bit more downside. Okay, and what does it mean? It means that if you're more of a short-term perspective, you can consider to see if you have a sell opportunity. Okay, kind of like wait for a pullback. Okay, and of course, that will open up the opportunity to look for a sell trade. If not, right, alternatively, if I'm not like very confident in selling BTC, right? I would rather not trade it if there's no clear setup than selling it. I'm more inclined to be looking out for buy opportunities. Right? So what this means is that if you're short term, you just want to trade the price of it, there is an opportunity that can sell it. But for me, I'll be interested more like when can I get a buy, right? So the thing here is if you get a V-shaped bounce, That's still a possible buy, right? Because then that would be the previous analysis that I shared with you. Okay, this is an impulse, is a pullback. Then the alternative count here is this, where the market continue to drop and then somewhere here we get a bounce, right? Then I'll be looking to buy here. Okay, so BTC here, they're just basically depending on how market develop, right? They're basically like variations in terms of like how we can actually look at it. Okay. So that's on the Bitcoin side of things. If we take a look at some of the global indices, right? I think the S&P and the Nasdaq overall, will be very, very much similar, right? So kind of completed a 5-wave cycle, expecting some kind of pullback. Dow Jones will be a little bit different, right? Okay, this is the US 30, right? So Dow Jones here, perhaps the opportunity is slightly different. Okay, kind of see this as more of a potential three-wave move, right? And of course, that would then open up a possibility where this would come back down. Okay, so it can still be in alignment, right? Because as the other two index, right, the S&P and the Nasdaq kind of decide to pull back. Okay, the US 30 might also be doing that, right? But obviously we won't call this a pullback because the momentum that's in control right now is this impulse push, right? And then this is simply a three-wave pullback. This move down would then complete maybe the cycle of this three-wave. Okay, and then of course at the same time, maybe the S&P and the Nasdaq will complete the pullback. And then all three index would then be in full alignment again. Okay, so US 30 is something you can look up for in terms of potential sell within the zone. Okay, as long as price remains below this high. Right? German DAX, not the clearest as of now. The pullback seems to be starting. Okay, not very impulsive, pretty corrective. So my take on German DAX is that if price is still below this high, you probably don't want to be buying yet. Okay, yeah. Okay, not a cleanness, probably not a very obvious setup as well. Okay, this is the FTSE. So FTSE may be developing a little bit of an expanding flat. Okay, that looks perhaps something like that. Okay. Okay, so that might be the development, right? That's a potential pattern structure. Yeah, so keep an eye on that, right? Possible setups here. Okay. A50 China market, we did come deeper than the 618. But this is looking like a potential reversal, right? RSI doesn't really have a clean divergence, but this pattern structure seems to suggest that we're starting to potentially bounce. Okay, so it's given what? Given that price needs to break out of that neckline, right? Okay, so A50 here, potentially breaking back to the upside, can start to be focusing on buy trade opportunity on this, right? China market. Hang Seng, uh, Hang Seng is basically still doing this. So what I'm seeing here is the 5-wave may have completed. This may be simply developing a simple 3-wave pullback, right? After a 5-wave move. Right? And this very much align quite nicely to where the previous wave 4 is. So there's a possibility that this is essentially developing something like that. Okay, this is Hang Seng. Australia, um, yeah, there's nothing there, right? Basically, it's in range, right? So just leave it. Switzerland, potentially doing a simple 3-wave structure here. kind of testing the 618 at the moment. Right. So yeah, okay. That may be the development as of now. Okay, so some of the index are clearer, some of the index are not as, straight up uh, with opportunities, right? Yeah, so that's what I have so far. Okay, let's see some of the crypto. Yeah, basically nothing there. Okay. Good. Yeah, so generally those are the things that I have. Just very quickly. Let me very quickly share with you some things. Yeah. Uh, okay. Okay. Just now at the start, I kind of mentioned a bit about the EA, right? I just want to very quickly share with you the performance of this. Okay. So this one here you can see is uploaded onto my FX book recently, just updated on about less than an hour ago. Okay, we currently do not have any running trades, but you can see overall the EA for you know this past few months has been pretty okay. Average out is about 1.5 to 2%. The return here is a little bit lower because I'm taking a more conservative approach, right? Because the fund size of this is quite sizable. So I'm actually taking more of a conservative approach. Not risking huge amount. And therefore the returns here, it's not like double digit or sort of, okay. So this is something that if you're keen, it's actually a PAM account, right? So you actually have the opportunity to also tag along the trades that is being taken in this account, right? If you like understand a bit more about PAM, um, do join the Discord group, where I have a little bit more information about, how to get you guys started in this PAM account, right? Obviously, you need to register for your own trading account and there are certain steps to get started. That's one. The other EA here that I have, okay, it's also basically can see updated about an hour ago. Okay, this one here is a little bit slightly more aggressive. Where you can see the returns are, also pretty good, right? For the past couple of months, on average out, you get about like 2.5 to 3%, right? As of ending June, we're getting close last week of June, probably can hit about 2%. Yeah, so it's about 2.5 to 3%. All those are fully automated EAs, right? And as I mentioned just now, they tend to perform better when the market is in a range bound environment. Okay, so this is something you can do as well on copy trade if you're interested, right? Same thing, can access the Discord channel that I have, and then from there on, you can gain a bit more understanding and how to get started on all those things. Okay, now last thing here is I do have the trading dose analysis free trial, right? It's a 7-day free trial. For those of you who are not inside yet or not a member of the trading dose, you can actually subscribe to a free trial for 7 days, right? And basically what you're gonna be getting is every day you get an email with a report, an analysis report inside, where I share with you, all the assets that I'm looking at, what is the overall direction, what's the analysis of it. Okay, so this is free. What you can do is the link to that is the tradingdose.com /shroud. Okay. And of course, if you just want to have a link to access everything, okay, you can just go over to karyong.com. You can click on this for the free trial. You can join the Discord server for the EAs that I mentioned right inside. You'll be able to get a little bit more information on how to get started. Okay. So, yep, that's all for me for today's session over here. Tomorrow I'll be trading the Canadian CPI data for news trade. For those of you interested, that's definitely a data you can look to execute. Okay. So, yep, that's all for me today. All the best for the week, and I'll see you guys in the next session. Okay. So see you guys. Bye.